I bring to you the 48 Laws of Power. Each week I'll be giving you a new video referring to each law and what they can do for you and how you can apply them to your everyday life. So today we'll be reviewing Law 1. Never outshine the master. The lesson of this story is pretty self-explanatory. It's not to make those above you feel any less superior than they are, because the moment that you do, you'll make them feel insecure and they'll feel ill will towards you. The chapter gives us many examples throughout history, one in particular being the story between King Louis XIV and his finance minister, Nicolas Fouquet. Now, one thing you need to understand about Fouquet was he was a very generous man. He was loved by many, and he loved to throw lavish parties. But one thing that was greater than anything was his love for money. There was a vacancy in the position for prime minister, and Fouquet wanted that position more than anything. So, what he ended up doing for King Louis XIV, he threw the greatest party that Europe had ever seen. And the king took notice in this because all of the nobility had let him know and made him aware that this was the greatest party that they had ever been to. This inspired insecurity within him. It made him feel weak, insecure, as if he was being outshined by his own subject. So what the king ended up doing was, instead of appointing Fouquet as his prime minister, he sent him to prison and threw away the key. To add, he also created the Palace of Versailles, which hosted even greater parties than that Fouquet had threw. This is also relevant today because if you've noticed, if you do inspire insecurities within other people that are above you, they will find a way to keep you down. Somehow, some way. Maybe not to the extreme of Fouquet, but they will keep you down. The book provides us with another example in history with Galileo in the Medici dynasty. Now, for those that don't know who Galileo is, he was brilliant in astronomy. But for those of you that know, astronomy doesn't necessarily pay the bills. So how he ended up making a living was he would discover something, show it to his superiors, and they would parade him in gifts. No currency, no money, none of that. Galileo was perhaps more intelligent than anybody during that era or anyone that was around him during that time period. But he used his smarts the right way. Now, Galileo had made a recent discovery around 1610 that Jupiter had 4 moons. A brief history lesson. In 1540, a man named Cosimo I had decided to make Jupiter the strongest of the Roman gods, his family's emblem. And he had 4 sons. His son, Cosimo II, ended up ruling around the time that Galileo was around. And Galileo had presented this idea to Cosimo II, that he and his brothers are the 4 moons surrounding Jupiter, their father, and that their rule was above power and it was above money, being that they were in the universe, that they were above all else. Cosimo II loved this idea so much that he appointed Galileo as the official philosopher of his court, as well as the mathematician, landing Galileo a full-time salary. What Galileo did was pretty much made his master outshine any other master in a way that would last forever. Now, you can inadvertently make your master feel insecure. A prince by the name of Manfredi, he was brilliant and he was charming and loved by all. His kingdom was taken by a man named Borgia, and Borgia spared everyone, even the great prince. However, by being in the prince's presence, the prince was viewed and looked highly upon by all, and because of this, Borgia found a way for this man to die. Sometimes your mere presence will just offend someone or make someone fear you in a certain type of way. In that example, this man stole another man's kingdom, and his subjects still looked highly upon him, and he lost his life for it. However, You can avoid these things by either getting away from it or being mute. G's move in silence. The last example we're given is to never overstep your boundaries. There was a man by the name of Rikuyu that was sought after and highly praised by his emperor, and he had a statue made out of himself in wood. Stood there on the palace floor with the statue, which nobility had passed by on the daily basis. The emperor had took notice in this and had sent for his death. Rikuyu ended up killing himself. However, the moral is that he knew no bounds. A man that knows no bounds will always inspire fear in his master and make him feel secure in any kind of way. He should have never overstepped his boundaries and should have known better to stay in his place. You have to understand the rules and regulations. You wouldn't go ahead and do anything you wanted to do at your own job. So that's the lesson to be learned here. All in all, the book is just letting you know that there are boundaries and lines that you should never cross, and that if you want to get anywhere, you have to play the fool in order to get where it is that you need to get to if you don't have that power yet. In order to attain the power, soak up and absorb as much as you possibly can and don't show as many things that you know as possible. Don't outwit your master and don't go looking better than your master. Nature will run its course and only the strong will survive. If your master is well on his way downhill, rise uphill, but do it silently.